Welcome. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, George.
Good evening, George.
Welcome to a slightly different, hi Krish. Welcome to a slightly different Burns night this year. Me and my slippers. It's gonna be, you're right, John. If you guys could please mute yourself, and at points I'll ask you to unmute. As you can see from the whiskies that you've got in front of you, this is a blind tasting. Only I and a select few of you know what a few of them are. I know what all of them are, of course. Hello, Gordon. And I need to remember to admit people as we go along. In the chat, as we taste the whiskies, if you'd like to put your tasting notes, and of course, any guesses that you'd like to put forward, maybe do them direct to me in the chat. We'll see how this goes along as we go. I've never done a tasting like this before, but I've no doubt that it's going to be very good fun. So, of course, it's Robert Burns' birthday. It is a day that is very, very special in the Scottish whiskey calendar, and getting more and more important as we go along worldwide. I think in England, we would call this the you're right to just get drunk today day, towards the end of January. It is going to be good fun. I have got some lovely whiskies for you to all try. Some of them might be easier to guess than others. We'll see. But as I said, the tasting notes in the chat, please join in. I'll also open it up as we go along, so that you can unmute yourselves, and we'll just see how it goes. And then I have got some whiskies that I have bottled up from my whiskey cell. So we have prizes. I have a lovely Brook Laddie here. It's Jade's cask. I've got the bottle here actually. So some of the members might recognize this bottle. It's one that I actually bought off one of the members, and I think we had, they had a cask. It was a friend who had a cask, and I bought a bottle off him. So that's a beautiful whiskey. It's 15 years old. We then have a Tomatin, a single cask from 2001. It's 17 years old. That's for whoever guesses the second dram. We have the Union exclusive, hand bottled at Deanston. That's a beautiful dram as well. I have the Artful Dodger 18-year-old Springbank, which should be quite enjoyable, whoever wins that. And then finishing off, the winner of the last one, I've pulled out my lovely bottle of the 24-year-old Old Perth. So some pretty cool prizes up for grabs. I will take them up to the Soho Whisky Club when I'm next allowed in. Like you, I'm not really allowed in at the moment. I've been out to check that I haven't left the dishwasher on, and that's about it. So we also have some poems, of course. So I have 4 lovely members who have agreed to have a bit of fun. I will do the mocking, please. But I think that it's only fair that you get to mock me first. So I'm going to do an address to the haggis. Now, I had a very Scottish dish for dinner tonight. I had sweet and sour chicken. It was homemade. It was very nice. So I'm not really a haggis man, as you guys might have seen, if any of you have been to the Burns night tasting at the club. But I do an interesting rendition of the address, and I've got a shortened version for you here. Unfortunately, no kilt today. Although I promise you I am wearing something, but my knees are not out. So, are we all ready to begin our Burns night tasting? Good, good. The Address to the Haggis by Robert Burns. If you can imagine your haggis here, look directly in its eyes. There's probably about 50 eyes in it. Fair for your honest sonsy face, great chieftain, or the pudding lace, aboon them all you take your place, pinch, tripe, a thern, well are you worthy of a grace, as long as me are. The groaning trencher there, you fill your herdies like a distant mill. Your pin would help to mend a mill in time of need. Well, through your pores, the dews distill like amber bead. His knife the rustic labour dight, and cut you up with ready sight, trenching your gushing entrails bright like on a ditch, and then, oh, what a glorious sight, warm, leaking rich. But mark the rustic haggis fed. The trembling earth resounds his tread, clapping his woolly knee a blade, and make it whistle, and legs, and arms, and heads will sned like taps a bristle. Ye powers, what make mankind ye care, and dish them out their fill of fare. Old Scotland wants knee skinking wear, that jobs in luggies. But if you wish her grateful prayer, give her a haggis. So there you are. You may mock away. I'm hoping that wasn't too. I think the word I normally use is racist in the club, but you know what I mean.
George, I thought it was very good. I couldn't understand a word, so it must have been original.
Yeah, neither could anybody else, Nigel. Neither could anybody else.
Yep.
It's only racist if we could work out what accent that was.
True. Very good point, Dr. B. Very good point. Right. So that's great. That's my bit over and done with. I can enjoy myself now. Hi, Malcolm. How are you? Welcome to the Soho Whisky Club, your club.
Good evening. Traffic permitting, I got here.
Very good. Fantastic. He's pouring his drams in. Everybody else, please pour your drams away into your vessels and pick your first one up. Number one, have a little smell, have a taste, and stick in some tasting notes in. Now is the point that I will ask you to please unmute yourselves and chat away. Tell us what you think and join in. And then if you direct message me, then I will be able to see if anybody guesses correctly. Obviously, if anybody guesses correctly, fantastic. We'll still keep it open for a moment or so. And then the winner of this one is getting Jade's cask, the wee dram, 15 years old, bought by me off a member of the club, actually. Little special treat. And I had a little taste as I was pouring it out. Oh, yeah. It tastes delicious. So the initials of one of you guys is going to go on to that bottle, and I will take it into the Soho Whisky Club where you can collect it. So I have already had one guess, Auld Particular. Now, you might have noticed that in your tasting kits, you got a little pin badge and, in fact, also a key ring. They are both Douglas Laing, and you are quite right. I would not be putting those in the tasting kit if there wasn't at least one Douglas Laing entry here. I've had a suggestion from Paul that it's Tobermory, not far off, but I can tell you that this is not an island whiskey.
No, it smells like a
Shout out, go ahead. What do we think? Very nice background there from Wagner, and a lovely t-shirt there, Tommy. Hey, Tommy and Susan.
Hello.
How are you? Well, you guys are fans of a terrible whiskey club. I can see behind you. No, we're SWC, not the other one.
It's a shame we don't do many bottlings.
Well, our Bimber one is going strong online.
Yeah.
If you haven't got your Bimber bottle, anybody?
Very
good. Yes, Wagner. That is what the winner will get. And actually, in terms of flavour profile, not too far off. This, of course, is an unpeated whiskey. Tom Catamol in with a straight guess there. Glenfarclas 10. I can understand where you're coming from. There is a honeyedness to this whiskey, but it's not a Glenfarclas. And in fact, I'm going to whittle it down a little bit more. it is not a Speyside whiskey.
Oh,
Any tasting notes from anybody?
It started.
We have started. We're deep into the first one.
I get apple for some reason.
You get apple. There's
Yeah.
a lightness to it. I'm just going to hide the bottle here. I can tell you that this is a limited edition, that it is 18 years old, and that the person who named this whiskey named it because he used to read his daughter a very famous poem. Kleinleash, I've had a guess of. Aberfeldy, I've had a guess of. And I have had a strong guess from somebody. A very strong guess, poorly spelt. Glen Scotia. Paul Francis, no. It's an 18-year-old. And I am going to ask you, please, to all unmute yourselves. Quickly unmute yourselves. I'm going to give you...
Oh, God, I sent him a big kiss.
Guys, Kimberly sends me a big kiss. Please make her send Kimberly a big kiss back.
Can't shut up.
Sam Barnes, it is your birthday. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to take a guess, Sam, at what blended whiskey this is?
Blended.
Chivas 18.
Sorry? Chivas 18, it is not. I can tell you that you got a very big clue in your tasting kit.
wow.
It's on the other side of the paper.
James Risk has just put in the guess,
I'd never have got that.
and I'm going back now. Somebody else put it in, very poorly spelt, Sam.
Oh,
Green.
Bolney, sorry. It was close though.
This is a Timorous Beastie 18-year-old.
With the double fine stuff.
Delicious dram. So congratulations, Sam Greenwood. Fantastic. You can't spell, but you can drink. So you have won a dram of the Wee Drams Jade Cask 15-year-old. You can see it there. Is a Brookladdy private single cask bottling. Cask number 473, 15 years, 50%. And I will write your initials on there. So well done, Sam.
Perfect.
But yeah, the name Timorous Beastie. Hi Sam, hi Jen. The name Timorous Beastie comes from a poem called To a Mouth by a man that you might not have heard of called Robert Burns. And I have my friend and also a member, Johnny Isaacs, on our little virtual tasting today. And Johnny has agreed to do the first poem. Now, he did say, do I have to do it in a Scottish accent? I said, I will leave that to you, but I can assure you that it won't be any more dire than my Scottish accent. So if everybody would please mute yourselves now, apart from Johnny, we will go into Johnny's poem, which is To a Mouse by Robert Burns.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me okay. And as George says, I apologise in advance for my terrible accent. We sleek it, cowering timorous beastie. Oh, what panics in thy breastie. Thou needna start away sae hasty with bicker and brattle. I would be loath to run and chase thee with murder and pattle. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union and justifies that ill opinion which makes thee startle. At me, thy poor earth-born companion and still mortal. Still, thou art blessed compared with me. The present only toucheth thee, but ock I backward cast my eye on prospects drear. And forward though I canna see, I guess in fear.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Johnny. If everybody please unmute yourselves, I think Johnny deserves a good round of applause there. Thank you very much, Johnny. Fantastic.
Bravo.
And a
Thank you,
much better Scottish accent than mine. Well done, Johnny. Okay, wow, that was a fantastic, lovely version of Robert Burns to a Mouse. I have shortened a lot of the poems. You can go online and find, well, in fact, I've shortened all of the poems for tonight. You can go on and find the full versions, and they are brilliant. But we're going to find out a little bit more about Robert Burns from Calvin a little later on, who is going to do the Immortal Memory. But before that happens, please could you pick up your second dram? I am going to text Scott, who's going to jump on and tell us a little bit more about it. I don't think he's on yet. You all right, Charles?
Oh, hi, yeah, I'm sort of looking after a puppy at the same time. Sorry.
Oh, no, absolute pleasure.
He's wandered off with the empty bottle one.
Ah, fantastic. Good.
And I thought, that's it, he can have it. He's quiet. Sorry.
You're on in 2 minutes. Okay, so we will get Scott on to tell us a little bit about this. I won't tell you his surname because it might be a very big clue because he's been into the club a few times. So if you pick up your dram number 2 and have a little smell again, please unmute yourselves. Chuck out as many tasting notes as you can. I'm hoping that I've put these in the right order. From the color, you can probably guess that I'm pretty sure I got this one right. It's pretty big on the nose. And already I have Jackie saying, is this a port cask? It is pink.
Yeah.
Definitely the color. I can tell you that this is 100% natural color. It is non-chill filtered as well, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, blimey, that's awesome.
Isn't it? Serious kick.
Lovely. There is a kick, isn't there? It is 46%. I've just remembered also, I am going to put these online as we go along, because obviously if I put the products in the store, some wily individuals will realize what we've got. And I can tell you that there is only one bottle of this. I can't find another one. That might be a big clue if anybody just saw the waiting room. Cherry, leather, and raisins. Tomatin port, interesting. Great accent. I assume that is talking about Johnny and not about the whiskey, but there is great accent to the whiskey as well. It's nice and richly perfumed. Spey port, very interesting. Berries, certainly. It's lovely and rich and big. I can tell you that this is a limited edition from 2002, and it is from a Highlands distillery, Glendronach port. It is not Glendronach port. Pine nuts, marshmallow, nice bottom, berries.
Thank you.
Treacle and raisins, black currants. Shout them out, guys. These are all good tasting notes.
We're getting melon.
You're getting melon on the nose or on the palate?
Palate.
Yeah. I'm getting tobacco, but that might be something else. I don't know.
Yeah. Because he's on his third cigar of the day. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Spicy.
Tobacco as well. Brett is getting drunk.
Butterscotch on the nose.
Paul Francis as well. Tomatin port. And yes, melon. I can tell you that this is from one of my favorite distilleries, and a distillery that gives great support to the Soho Whisky Club. And we have done some very, very, very cool and unique tastings with them. And if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Mr. Scott Adamson in a moment to unmute himself. I did get a Tomatin port from Paul Francis as well. I can tell you You want to unmute yourselves and shout out. It is a Tomatin, but it is not the port cask. This is 2002. It's 14 years old. Any guesses as to the type of cask that it was? It's not port.
Sherry.
Sherry.
Red wine.
It's a red wine cask, and it's a particular red wine, a particular grape.
Burgundy.
Burgundy, no, it's not Pinot Noir cask. Anybody else? Think more left bank.
Bordeaux.
Yeah, it might be a Bordeaux cask. It is a Cabernet Sauvignon cask. Aidan Neal, I think you were the first one in there. So congratulations, Aidan. You have won from my little whiskey box a Tomatin 2001 single cask. It was distilled 2001, bottled 2018 from a PX sherry butt.
Marvelous, George. Thank you very much.
Lovely to see
you. Lovely to see you.
I look forward to handing this across the bar for you, to you in congratulations, Aidan. And don't worry, I chose whiskies for you guys where it wasn't the last dram. So even if I do by accident drink them, I will be able to replace it. So guys, I'm just going to write these down so I don't forget. We have a little treat, just so you don't have to listen to my voice anymore, frankly. We have got one of my favorite brand ambassadors. In fact, two of them are on from Tomatin. Krish is on, and also Scott Adamson. Scott, you are there, aren't you?
I am indeed, George.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Very good. Good to see you.
And lovely to see you too, as well.
I was driving home from the distillery today. It's the first time I've been there this year. And it was only when I was doing that I realized that this time last year, I was sitting in the Soho Whisky Club having a beer with you as you were telling me how you were going to make haggis, neeps and tatties for all your members. And I'm glad to see that so many people have survived that ordeal.
And survived the poem as well. Well, you missed out my address to the Haggis just now. But don't worry, Scott, I'm recording it.
Oh, tremendous.
You can watch it back on the Soho Whisky Club YouTube channel later.
I can rest easily knowing that now.
So now I contacted you a couple of weeks ago, and I think it might have been through Krish actually, and then we spoke, and you said that you'd love to support, but it's a bit difficult to get bottles at the moment. So I had a look what stock we had at the vintage house, and this bottle came out of Malcolm's office, the 2002 Cab Sav, and it is delicious. Yeah. And I am gonna put the only bottle left online now. So there is one bottle left, and I wouldn't be surprised if there aren't many more bottles of this in the world.
No, so like you said, we released this in 2016, and it was part of a trio of releases that we did that year. So rather than this release carrying the kind of the pressure, the stock pressure, it was split between three. So there's only, I had a little look earlier on, 2,436 bottles of this. And that was 4 years ago. And I think, it was at a cracking price point for a limited edition 14-year-old that certainly mine has been battered into a little bit over the years, so there won't be many of these. And what there is, there won't be many left sealed, No,
and I mean, that tonight is 71 quid online right now.
Bargain.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit, for those of you who haven't been to your exceptional tastings, and I've said in the past, Scott, you are one of the most knowledgeable, you're almost like a whiskey historian, I see you as.
Thank you very much. It's very
a lot of the brand ambassadors are very good at talking like you are, but you have an awful lot of knowledge. And so if anybody hasn't been to one of Scott's tastings, please, I urge you, the next time we can get him into the Soho Whisky Club, come along, they're brilliant. But could you tell us just a little bit briefly about Tomatin?
Yeah, absolutely. I was having to think, racking my brains, because like you said, we've done a couple of tastings over the last few years. So I was thinking, what can I share with you that's maybe not something that I've brought up at a normal tasting. And I was speaking with Krish earlier in the week, and I believe we're hosting a virtual tasting with you in a few months. So I'll save quite a lot of the story for that. But going to that history point, my sister for Christmas bought me this book called Scotch Mist. And there's a little thing in here that ties in quite well to this whiskey. So I thought I'd share this story with you. I was having a wee flick through that book, and I landed on Kingussie, just about half an hour south, maybe even 20 minutes south of Tomatin. And it's where Speyside Distillery is. So some of you all know Paul Dempsey from Spey and some of the drams that they have. But the Speyside Distillery that exists there was not the original one. The original Speyside Distillery was built in the 1890s and shut down at some point between 1905 and 1910. Nobody's exactly sure when. But it was the only other distillery that was designed by the man that designed Tomatin Distillery, which also shut down in 1909. So he maybe wasn't great at designing distilleries. His name was Alexander Mackintosh, and he's designed some fantastic monuments and bridges and stuff. But like I say, his 2 distilleries failed within 10 years of being opened. But I was reading about the original Speyside Distillery and was fascinated to learn that the stills that were used at Speyside Distillery fit exactly, the description of these stills fit exactly the stills that we have at Tomatin Distillery today. And it's a fascinating part of the history because everyone knows the shape of the still is so important in creating your spirit. And I've often wondered, when did we develop that? Has it always been there since 1897, or is it something that's developed over time? For those of you that don't know, Tomatin opened in the 1890s as a very, very small distillery. Most of the whiskey that we produced would have been sold to small companies or grocers in the UK and been blended. But following the Second World War, we expanded on an absolutely incredible scale to the point that by the 1960s, we were the biggest distillery in Scotland. And we continued that right through until the 1970s and eventually till we went bankrupt in the 1980s. We had 23 stills producing 12.5 million litres of alcohol a year. And the style of alcohol that was being produced from the 60s onwards was this incredibly light and fruity style because it had to be versatile. We had to use it in all the blends. It had to go to Johnny Walker, Dewar's, Chivas Regal, Ballantyne's. It was sent over to Japan in tankers. It had to be an incredibly versatile spirit. So I often wondered, were these stills introduced in the 1950s when we started expanding? And now looking at this book, I can learn that the stills that we use at Tomatin today, the design of them was designed all the way back in 1897. So although we're not able to try liquid from that period of time, we can get an understanding of the profile of it. We know it was slightly peated, but what we also know was that it was this incredibly light and fruity spirit that's continued right through today. And that ties in incredibly well to this whiskey because for those of you that have maybe explored Tomatin before, tried some of the drams, you'll notice that it's not the same style at different age points. It's not the same style at different strengths. We like to play about with casks a lot. And when you speak to our master distiller, Graham Unson, he talks about casks like tools in his toolbox. So you quite often hear about blenders and whiskey makers as artists. But there's a weird thing about art where you very often don't know what the final product's going to be. So I always talk about Graham almost like he's a blacksmith or a carpenter. You know, he's a craftsman who knows what tools he has to use and what he has to do with them to create the final product. And knowing that he's got this very versatile spirit has allowed us to create a range of whiskies that is incredibly diverse. You know, even in our core range, we've got American oak, bourbon and virgin oak casks, we've got sherry casks, we've got port casks. And then we get onto things like this. Before I talk about this whiskey though, I'd just like to get a little test of the room. Just by a show of hands, how many people generally like wine casks in whiskey? So about half. So if I'm to take from that the other half don't or maybe haven't experienced them, I think that's quite an interesting thing because other than peat, I think red wine casks are maybe one of the most divisive topics in whiskey, and especially when it comes to taste. I think a lot of that comes from 2014, 2015. In the winter of 2013, there was a hellish amount of rain and snow in North America, and it meant that getting timber out of the forests was very difficult. So there was a shortage of bourbon barrels for a couple of years, and that meant that the price went through the roof. And most distillers at that time started to look for alternatives, and a lot of red wine casks were being bought at that time for 75, 80 euros. And some of them are excellent. I think you can pinpoint a number of incredible red wine matured whiskies, like take Long Row Red, for example. They never fail to deliver. But there are also some that are maybe not quite so good, and I'll not name names on that front. But what we did here, this kind of predates the arrival of those 2014 casks. This was distilled in 2002, January 2002, and then matured for 9 years in refill American oak hogsheads. So for me, the absolute unsung heroes of the whiskey industry are these refill hogsheads. In their youth, they're not great by themselves, but they give you a great backbone to start using for finishes. They allow the distillery character to oxidize, calm down a little bit, develop a little bit, and then going into their 20s and 30s, they're some of the best whiskies in the world. But for the first 9 years, this is in these refill hogsheads. And then in 2011, so a couple of years before this bourbon barrel shortage, we bought a parcel of French oak casks. And there was two types. There was Cabernet Sauvignon fresh casks, and there was recharred French oak casks, so casks that we had stripped the wine out of and recharred. These are not French red wine casks, but they are French oak. So they're Quercus petrea, French oak from the Allier forest that were coopered by the cooperage at Lafitte, and then they were sent to Portugal, where they were used by a company that we work with quite a lot. And those of you that have tried our 15-year-old Moscatel finish might have heard me talking about Vinos de Bacaloa. And as well as producing incredible Moscatels, Bacaloa produced some wonderful, wonderful red wines. And we managed to get a hold of a very small parcel of their Cabernet Sauvignon casks. 2011, that 9-year-old whiskey went in there and had a 5-year finish in these red wine casks. So I think, you know, a lot of the time you hear about red wine casks, and it very often feels like the whiskey's been rolled past a bottle of red wine. You know, that's as close to it's come to a finish. But what we're looking at here is 5 years of drawing out not just the red wine, but getting a little bit deeper and getting some of the extractives from the French oak as well. So as well as having that big fruity, you know, that cherry, blackcurrant, raspberry flavors, there is that lovely oaky spice that you get from that Quercus petrea. There's a bit of ginger, a bit of cinnamon there. I know you guys have already tried it, but I thought it would only be fair that if I had a dram as well.
Quite rightly say.
But like I say, this is a bottle that I've had for the past, well, going on 5 years now. And I've taken my time with it. I'm myself, I'm not the biggest fan of red wine casks. I love whiskey in ex-bourbon barrels or American oak casks. So it's really only if I'm wanting to sit down with a dram that I'll go to something like this. And what I've noticed after a couple of years of the bottle being open, it's really, really evolved. It was originally a lot of dark chocolate and a lot of cherry, but it's blown up into this really fruity whiskey. And over the Christmas period there, I was asked to do a little cocktail masterclass with Tomatin Legacy. I was like, right, I'm going to make something festive. So I went down to the local deli and I found this spiced plum jam. So it's plum, apple, cranberry with ginger and cinnamon, all in this lovely, lovely jam. And as soon as I opened this bottle, just 10 minutes before popping on, that is the flavor that leapt out of this glass. It is exactly like that jar of spiced plum jam, but 46% non-chill filtered, natural color, around about 2,500 bottles. And like George says, he's got the last one there for £71. So yeah, have a great burn tonight, guys, and Slange va.
Scott, thank you so very, very much, sir. That was brilliant. And
George, sorry, where is that bottle for sale, please?
it's on your Soho Whisky Club platform.
I can't find it.
If you go to bottles, it should be there.
No, I can't see it. Sorry. Shop, bottles.
Maybe it's gone already.
Someone's had it.
Okay, I'll pay £5 extra.
Should be live. Hold up.
Shall we auction this?
I'm gonna hide it again and then show it again.
Nope. Club bottlings. Diageo special releases.
It
Sorry,
is my
but
birthday.
I'll have
George.
it if you don't mind, please.
Right, it's first come, first serve, so whoever can get on there.
I can't get in. I can't see it. Sorry. Stupid Mac.
No, you're quite right. I've probably hidden it. Hold up. If you give me one sec, what we'll do is I will put it on in a sec. Scott, thank you so very much if you're still there.
No problem at all.
We will get you into do a virtual tasting in the next couple of weeks. Or next couple of months, sorry.
Absolutely. Hopefully before the end of the year, I'll get to come down and see you all in person again, and we can show you some nice new whiskies that have come out.
Amazing. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it.
No problem, George. Any excuse for a dram on a Monday night. Cheers, my friend.
It's your
Catch you
birthday.
later.
We appreciate your time. And thanks to Krish as well, who I think is on.
Thank you, George. Enjoy, everyone.
Cheers, Krish. Thank you so much, sir. Happy Burns night.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
So there you go. There's dram number 2, your Tomatin. Congratulations to Aidan, who guessed correctly first. Sam Greenwood, you cannot win 2 in a row, and nor can you win 2 in a night. So there you go. He sent me a private text pointing to him putting Cab Sav in the chat above. I didn't see it, nor do I care. So moving on to blind dram number 3. Please pick it up and have a nose. Have a little taste as we are going through one of the most important bits of any Burns night. Calvin, are you there?
Yes, I am, George. How are you?
Hello, sir. Look at that whiskey cabinet. Now, you've got Rosebanks up there. You've got Dallas Dews up there. You've got some special whiskies, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got a tartan wall I saw the other night.
Yeah, Duncan tartan.
Duncan tartan. We can't quite see it, but
Just
look at that. Now, that is a whiskey room for you. Fantastic. So now, Calvin, you have very kindly said that you will give us a little bit of background on Robert Burns, who he is, what he did, his poetry, and leading into our next dram, which I'll ask everybody to nose, taste, but please don't finish. And whilst this is going on, Calvin, I am listening, but I'm going to try and put these whiskey bottles.
yeah, good.
This one.
Okay, Robert Burns. This is Burn Supper, and a lot of you will probably be asking who the fuck was Robbie Burns. Robbie Burns is the best loved Scottish poet, admired not only for his verse and great love songs, but also for his character, his high spirits, his curt-defying, hard drinking and womanising. He came to fame as a poet when he was only 27 years old, and his lifestyle of wine, woman and song made him famous all over Scotland and now across the world. And for those that don't really understand how famous he is, he's the third most non-religious statue after Christopher Columbus and Queen Victoria in the world. If you go out in London down to the Victoria Embankment, just by Gordon's Wine Bar, and walk along the gardens there, you'll see a statue of Robert Burns. And he's also got a bust in Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey, for those that would like to go out and see those. He was born on the 25th of January, hence the Burn Supper tonight, in 1759 to a farmer, and he was home educated. His first poem was written in 1774 at the age of 15 years old, and that was "Oh, Once I Loved a Bonny Lass." So you can tell that he was into his woman from an early age, that he thought to actually write a poem for one of them. He would go on to write over 300 songs and poems, and Auld Lang Syne is one that everybody knows around the world, penned by Robbie Burns himself. There's many, many other songs that you'd recognise, but it's far too many to go into here. His father died in 1784 and he inherited the farm. And in that year, he had the first of 12 children, of which only 5 would survive. And the 12 children he had was with 4 different women. So he was a bit of a womanizer, put himself about a bit. You may be asking yourselves, what has Robbie Burns got to do with whisky? That's a very good question. Robbie Burns had a lot to do with whisky, and I'll go on to try to explain it. Some of it, a bit of history about why he ended up doing what he did. In 1774, any still in the Highlands under 400 gallons for wash still and 100 gallons for spirit still was made illegal. So this is before the Whisky Act of 1823, when people were making their own whisky around the country. But the government was trying to make sure that they would get their money out of it by the taxes and duties imposed. In 1781, domestic whisky production was made illegal. In 1782, just at the age of 23 years, he writes a poem called John Barleycorn. But if you take the time to read that, Google it and read it, that's a poem about how to make whisky. So just at 23 years old, this guy, he's so smart, home educated, he understands how to make whisky. And I'm sure if I asked some of you tonight to explain the whole process, you would probably struggle. But this guy's actually wrote a poem about it. In 1784, a thing called the Highland line was introduced by law. And that was those in the Highlands could only make and drink the whisky made in the Highlands, and those below the line in the lowlands could only make and drink the whisky in the lowlands. And Robbie Burns, he came from Ayrshire, which was in the lowlands, which isn't famous for the stories at all. The part of the country he comes from, I think it's only Bladnoch is the only distillery that's left there. In 1785, he writes a poem about Scotch drink. And that's right, he mentions the closure of Ferrintosh distillery, which was rebuilt around 1670, and it closed in 1786. And that was a poem about Ferrintosh. It closed. It was one of the few distilleries in the Highlands that was supported by the government, and they could pay their own duties. And it was what Ferrintosh distillery was actually 3 distilleries up in the Black Isle, but all closed now. In 1786, the author's earnest cry and prayer, and that's a letter in response to the Scotch Distillery Act of 1786, which imposed more duty on whisky in England. And that was a letter he sent to the House of Commons, to the Scottish the representatives, which numbered 45 of them. In 1788, he returns to farming from Edinburgh. The government imposes more taxes, and that's things like glass bottles and candles and paper and windows, basically taxing anything that was worth anybody to anybody, because at the time, the way the government, or what the government was doing, was fighting its way around the world as part of the British Empire. In 1789, he trains as a gauger for the excise. Now, you remember, in the lowlands, there's lots of distilleries, or home distilleries around. As long as they were in the legal capacity, they could make their own whisky, but there was a lot of them. And he recognised that there was no money in farming, so hence he became a gauger for the excise. In 1790, he's 31 years old, and he writes Tam O'Shanter. You're going to hear that later. It's not the full version. If you get the chance, make sure you do read it. You can get English translations for it for those that don't understand it. And when you hear the version later, listen out for "We Yuska Bay will face the devil." So that's him saying, with the whisky, we'll face the devil. And you'll also hear the words "Well done, Cutty Sack." The Cutty Sack whisky, this is where it's named after, from the Cutty Sack, is a witch in the Tam O'Shanter poem. In 1791, he gave up farming because there was no money in it, basically, and he turned to the excise full-time in 1792. In 1792, he writes another song about whisky, and that's about the deals awa with the exciseman, which translates as the devil's away with the exciseman. In 1793, he writes another song, The Jolly Beggars. Jolly Beggars, I imagine you could imagine you know what that's about. And also in 1793, he joined the Royal Dumfries Volunteers. So this is a guy, he's been a farmer, he's done all his womanising, he's written all his songs. He's now thought it was a good idea to join the Royal Dumfries Volunteers. At the same time, in 1793, with the war with France, whisky was being taxed at £9 per gallon per still capacity. So if you had a 400 gallon still, it was 400 times 9 is what you're having to pay out. In 1795, it doubled to £18. So you can understand, or hopefully you can understand, why the excise in the country, it was very important to the government as a whole, because they are making lots of money from people making whisky. And in the lowlands, as I said earlier, there's very few distilleries in that area. Well, one now, there's a few in the central Scotland. And unfortunately, it was long journeys and horseback as an exciseman contributed to his bad health, and he died of rheumatic fever on the 21st of July, 1796, just 37 years old. And he was buried on the 25th, the day his son Maxwell, his last of his children, was born. 37 years old, it's quite remarkable what the guy done in his life. And he's been a farmer, he's been an exciseman, he's done all the womanising, he's been around the country. What I would say to you guys is put it on your bucket list, get a book of Robert Burns poems and read them. Some of them you won't understand, some of them you will get, and you'll just get it. Bob Dylan's, he's been quoted as saying his most inspirational song he ever heard was "My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose," written by Robbie Burns. So I could only advise, get yourself a book and read it. And the whole purpose of this little speech is to give you an idea of what Robbie Burns is about. We'll now raise our glasses and toast to Robbie Burns, his immortal memory. To Robbie Burns, his memory.
So Robbie Burns, thank you so much, Calvin. Absolutely fantastic, mate. Exactly what we needed. It's always the difficult one to do, so I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's fantastic.
Can I just say my goal, do one, Robbie, is a term of endearment. Of course, we love the man.
Yeah.
It's a respectful, that.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently there's a fireworks party outside my flat right now. Fantastic. Good timing. Excellent. Shut up. Right, okay.
Bang on, little boy, bang on.
It's for my birthday.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's for your birthday. Fantastic. Just what we need. I'm going to try and find some headphones. Right, do you guys want to shout out? Oh, you got a bit more on my stomach than you wanted there, probably. Let's stick these in.
Thanks, Calvin. That was absolutely brilliant. It was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very,
really lovely.
Very welcome, Bagger.
Any tasting notes for me? Stick them out, unmute yourselves, shout out. I will tell you what the prize is. This is the Union exclusive for Deanston. Very, very difficult bottle to get your hands on. It's 2004 PX finish, filled November 2019. So yeah, you're not going to see that again. That is for the lucky winner of this special dram. You might have seen in the send out that I did for you guys, I put the prices of these whiskies on. This is the one that is the most expensive. It's the oldest whiskey. It is a 21-year-old. It's delicious. Definitely pears from Neil Mosley. Smoky, hard and mad. Tropical fruit. Definitely some tropical fruit in there, isn't there?
This number 3's talking about.
This is number 3, yes. And in terms of punch, this is bottled at 54.7%.
Whoa.
It is no colouring and no chill filtration. And it is a lovely dram and very syrupy. Yes, Paul. James Taylor guessing Balvenie. Alan's still on direct messages, but saying peach and cigars. Cocoa butter, grapefruit. Shout them out, guys. These are all great. And then start guessing away. Balblair? No, it's not a Balblair. This is the area of Scotland that I call the back of the neck.
What?
Very good guess, David. Yes, David and Jason guessing very well there. Do we want to be a bit more specific? But David and Jason there getting the distillery spot on. It's not Brora, but it is Cloynleash.
Oh.
It's lovely. It's absolutely delicious. I am going to give it to David and Jason there. Can you show yourselves? Where are you?
Hello. Hello. We're here.
Hello. How are you guys? Lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Welcome.
Happy Burns Night.
Happy Burns Night. Welcome back to the Soho Whisky Club. The Soho Whisky Club in my flat, which is slightly odd. Congratulations. So you guys have won the Deanston Union exclusive.
Awesome.
And you were spot on. It is Cloynleash. It is 21-year-old XOP. And it comes in a beautiful box. I'm going to put it online now. I believe, again, we only... I think we've got 2 more of these. Let me pop it online. I think when I put on that Cab Sav, 2 people tried to get on and it allowed them to. So the last one's going to be cancelled. XOP Cloynleash. That is online now, 255 quid. It is one of 309 hand-filled bottles. This is bottle number 133. Obviously, your one won't be. And yeah, XOP, beautiful.
Great.
So, congratulations. You have won a Deanston Union exclusive from myself. And really lovely to see you.
Lovely
guys.
whiskey. Amazing. Delicious. Yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it? So, now, we're going to move on to slightly peated now. But before we do that, and as you pick up dram number 4, blind dram 4, have a little smell, have a taste. I would like to Cloynleash. You're quite right, Tim. Cloynleash indeed.
It's not original. It's not original.
Well, I think, wasn't it original to you the last time Colin Dunn was in the bar?
I don't believe it was there. He told me about it when he came to visit me on the hill, and he said that somebody had written this as a tasting note, Cloynleash. So not original, but definitely appreciated and passing it on for those who haven't heard it.
Tim, you take it as original.
All right.
Everybody there will recognise this great man, Mr. Tim Hain, and there might be something rather special at the end. But before then, something equally special, a very, very, very famous Robert Burns poem. Alison, are you there?
I am here.
Hello. Lovely to see you.
Good evening, everybody. So the epic Tam Shanter, which don't worry, we're not doing all of. But yes, ever such a great introduction from Calvin there, all that stuff about Burns. You mentioned the Cutty Sark, which is, of course, the famous tea clipper in Greenwich, and the wonderful headpiece on the Cutty Sark is representing the witch nanny from this wonderful epic poem. I'm only going to read a couple of stanzas, as I said, but it's a wonderful tale, a bit of a cautionary tale, in fact, with a little warning at the end. So I'm sure this is one good for all of us at the Whisky Club. So this is Tam Shanter. When Chapman billies leave the street and drouthy neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to take the gate, while we sit bowsing at the nappy and getting through an unco happy. We think now on the long Scots miles, the mosses, waters, slaps and stiles that lie between us and our ham, where sits our sulky, sullen dam, gathering her brows like the gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. This truth found honest Tam Shanter, as he frae air and night did canter, old air whom ne'er a town surpasses, for honest men and bonny lasses. O Tam, hadst thou been so wise as to take that Anwise Kate's advice? She told thee well thou was a skellum, a blithering, blustering, drunken bellum, that frae November till October, a market day thou wasna sober. And ilka milda with the miller thou sat as lang as thou had siller, and every nag was caught a shoe on, the smith in thee got roaring through on. That at the Lord's house, even on a Sunday, thou drunk with Curtin Jean till Monday. She prophesies that late or soon thou would be found deep drowned in Doon, or catch with warlocks in the murk, by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Now what this tale of truth shall read, ilk man and mother's son take heed. Whene'er to drink you are inclined, or cutty socks run through your mind, think, ye may buy joys o dear, remember Tam O'Shanter's mare.
Fantastic. Unbelievable. Thank you, Alison.
Pleasure.
Wow, absolutely brilliant. That is what we needed. Remarkable. Thank you so much, Alison. Now, everybody who's done a poem or speaking today is going to get a dram on Malcolm when they come into the bar. So thank you, Malcolm. I haven't told you that, but after that from Alison, I think it's all well deserved. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Alison. So, well, how to follow? Well, we need to guess the next dram up for grabs is Artful Dodger Springbank 18-year-old, given to me by my mates last year. And you're going to get a dram of that. I doubt, in fact, I know there's none of that going anymore. So that, again, you can't buy. I can tell you that the distillery has already been guessed. In fact, it was guessed quite early on. But please shout out tasting notes, shout out what you think. You can look through the list. Smoked ham, definitely David Norris. Definitely. Dirty Pete. This is Dirty Pete. I'm going to give you a clue, which will probably give away the distillery. This distillery, and it's not Bunnahabhain before I say this, and it's not Brook Laddie before I say this. This distillery typically does unpeated whiskey, and this is the peated version of it.
This is Bunnahabhain.
It's
I
not
think
Bunnahabhain.
what I'm getting from it is a lot of treacle with the peat.
Mm-hmm. It's very close to one of my favorite types of whiskey. It's very close to having that filthiness that you all know I enjoy. Bowmore 18, no. It is a dirty peat like a Laphroaig. I am going to put you all out to your misery. Not Kilhoman, no, but not far off. In terms of flavour profile, different island. Going further north on to the Isle of Mull. We have Tobermory, and this is the Ledaig 18.
Oh, very nice.
So not far off Bunnahabhain, same owner. But yeah, that's it's a great whiskey, and Tobermory, one of my favourite distilleries. So congratulations to the man who we saw with the microphone just then, Mr. Tim Hain. You have won the Artful Dodger Springbank 18, bottled by Artful Dodger. So write that down. Okay. Perfect.
That's beautiful. I love a Springbank.
You love a Springbank. Good, good. Now, James, are you there? Mr. James?
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm here.
How are you, sir? You well?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thank you. You looking
Excellent. Sorry?
well? You're looking very well.
Yeah, I am. Well, I've had plenty to drink, so, you know.
Good, good. That is always, that's always a positive. I really appreciate you saying you'll do this.
Of course.
It's a very cool poem.
Yes.
Again, believe it or not, by Robert Burns.
Of course.
ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Risk doing Red Red Rose.
Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I. And I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fare thee will, my only love, and fare thee will a while. And I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 mile.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted now. I didn't realise I was muted. Excellent. Thank you, James. So, Red Red Rose by Robert Burns and performed by James Risk there. Newish member of the Soho Whisky Club. In fact, you've probably been nearly now to as many tastings virtually as you did in the club. So I promise, guys, we're going to get back open as soon as we possibly can. Although I do quite enjoy this setup of things. So we are moving in to dram number 5. Have a little smell, have a taste, and Tim, you're going to give us a little song, and then we'll guess the last dram.
Okay, so shall we do Auld Lang Syne at the end? Because I can't guarantee how short or how long it's going to be.
Okay, deal.
I mean, listen, guys. I was just reading about Jimi Hendrix, and he did a New Year's Eve gig. I think it was in New York with the band of Gypsies. And can you hear that? All right.
Yeah, yeah, nice and loud.
Is it too loud?
A tiny bit.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that good?
That's good. Would you prefer if we announce what the final dram is first?
It might be good. Then people can enjoy it, and you know,
Perfect.
they can meditate upon it while I go crazy here.
Okay, well, guys,
I was just going to say, I was just reading about Jimi Hendrix, and it just so happens that I'm reading this book about Jimi Hendrix, and yesterday I read that he played a New Year's Eve gig with the band of Gypsies, and at 12:05 he came on stage and played a half-hour version of Auld Lang Syne. So, just to set the precedent.
Okay, well, not a half an hour version.
No. But I'm just saying, I just happened to read that today because, you know, Jimi Hendrix in his own way is probably as great as Robert Burns, and they have much in common.
Yeah, for sure. There's a tiny bit of reverb on your mic, Tim.
Yep. Don't worry about that. I'll see if I can turn it down a bit. Hang on.
So Tom and Susan, spot on, Ardbeg 25, 700 quid a bottle. In we go. Believe it or not, that's sold out today.
Wow.
Quite rightly so. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. No, it's not the Ardbeg 25. We've had a guess of Kilhoman. It is peatier than this, the Ledaig 18. Whoever guesses it is going to get one of the last inches of my old Perth. I'm going to mute. Of my old Perth 24-year-old. One of my favourite bottles, which of course is a blend of Highland Park, Macallan, amongst others. So, guess away. We are on the mainland now. Bigger, bolder than Ledaig. Any guesses? One of my favourite whiskies is pretty much always on the bar. Peppery, silky strength. Yep. It is heavily peated. Neil Mosley jumped in with Lagavulin, not far away.
Laphroaig.
Marlborough Lights, more like Marlborough Red. Any guesses? Malcolm, are you going to have a guess? Absolutely no, he says. Kilkerran, no, not Kilkerran, but not far off. It certainly is oily. It's got like an oily sweetness. I can't put you out of your misery because somebody has to win it. I'm just going back to double check that nobody guessed it again. Joseph and Laura Ann, congratulations. This is a Laphroaig. It is Laphroaig Lore.
Oh, I was going to bloody say law.
Oh, Sam.
Shit.
Sam,
Sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm unmuted.
Sam, I'll give you a birthday dram. Don't worry, mate.
Get back at you.
Sorry. I'm really sorry. In my anger, I'd unmuted myself. I'm so sorry. Enjoy your evenings, everyone.
Happy birthday.
Who cares?
We love it. Okay. Joseph and Laura Ann.
I just finished a fucking bottle of it. That's why I'm upset. It's obviously, you know, just I've turned into leather with it. It's just.
Well, you weren't far off, mate. You were
it's good. Thank you.
So that is our last dram of the night. It is the Laphroaig Lore. I'm putting that live on the website as well. I think. So to run through the drams that we had today. Website does not like me. Go live. To go through the drams that we had today, we started with the Timorous Beastie, the 18-year-old, a little Douglas Laing regional malt there, Highlands blend. Then we went to the Tomatin. We had that great poem, To a Mouse, by Johnny Isaacs. Thank you very much, sir. We then had the Tomatin Cab Sav 2002, which Wagner really wanted to buy, and then 2 people bought it, even though there's only 1 bottle. So I'll deal with that later. Sam Greenwood, you were the second one to buy it by the list, so unlucky, mate. XOP Klein Leash was our third after Calvin gave his brilliant Immortal memory. Thank you very much, Calvin. So then we had the XOP Klein Leash, the 21-year-old, one of only 309 bottles. Then Alison gave that brilliant Rorus rendition of the Shanter. Thank you very much. That was brilliant. With the Ledaig 18. And then James, thank you so much, sir, for your rendition of Red Rose. And then we finished on the Laphroaig Lore, which is now live on the website. So that was our blind tasting. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I wish you all a very happy Burns night. I'm sorry that it couldn't be in person, but I very much hope and I'm sure that next year, Russ Kane George, that's 2 peaty ones. Sorry, Russ. I owe you a non-peated whiskey, mate. Next year, hopefully you will see me in a skirt again.
Yes!
Yes!
Sorry.
My rug of a skirt. My rug of a skirt. Laura Ann loves seeing my knees. So, ladies and gentlemen.
Knobbly wonder.
It really is. Ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you've enjoyed it. I've very much enjoyed it. It's been a unique one, of course. And with great thanks to Malcolm, as ever. Malcolm, you're doing a great job running the club. Thank you very much for all the support that you give me. And to play us out, the fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Hain with Auld Lang Syne. Happy Burns night, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
And with the taste of that wonderful last dram on my palate, I bring you this, which I actually composed and put together on New Year's Eve in order to play it at 10 past 2020, which I did. And I don't know all the words, you know the tune, but it's what we call a Blegue version of, that means a combination of Hendrix and Marley, Blegue, blues and reggae version of the great Robert Burns song that we all sing on New Year's Eve. But rather than getting all maudlin about it, hopefully this version will make you jump about. Welcome to Blegue music, Auld Lang Syne. Can you hear that?
There we go.
Louder, softer.
And that's all good.
Perfect.
Nope, perfect as is.
All right. Watch out. Here we go. Little acquaintance be forgot and never be renewed. No, no, no. Let's drink the cup of kindness right now for old Lang Syne, for old Lang Syne, for old Lang Syne. Yeah, we'll drink a cup of kindness for all Lang Syne. Before we do, I'd just like to say goodbye to 2020 and summon up another great poet, the man they call Peter Tosh. So goodbye 2020, welcome 21, and now the fun and the healing has begun. Here we go. Here's what Peter would have said. Oh, bomba cla, oh, raskla, oh, bomba cla, oh, raskla. But we're leaving 2020 behind. Time to cleanse our hearts and our minds with this wonderful old song. So may your holy cup be filled. Surely will be mine. We'll drink a cup of kindness. Yes, yes. For all Lang Syne. My friends, we'll do it for Lang Syne. Just drink a cup of kindness, then we drink another one, and then another one. Watch it and play some slide for you. Well, what key we in? Sorry about that. Here we come.
Bravo. Fantastic. Thank you so much once again, Tim Hain. Absolutely.
Always.
And
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
thank you very much, everybody who took part, especially those obviously who gave wonderful performances within that. And thank you for everybody just for joining in and being gift sports. Happy Burns Night. We hope to see you back at the Soho Whisky Club very, very soon. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody. All the very best. Cheers, guys.
Thank
What I'm
you.
gonna do-
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
Kelvin.
I'm going to leave the meeting on if anybody wants to hang around.
Thank you.